It is 10 o'clock, and I do believe we have most everyone joining. You're going to see some videos coming on of our specialists speaking today on the webinar. Good morning, and thank you for attending. I am Laura Oblinger. I am the Director of Client Services for Raymond in our Northern Michigan region. It is my distinct pleasure to be able to moderate this discussion today. And just to make sure we're all in the right place, we're going to be talking about algorithms to action, HR's AI journey. A couple housekeeping notes. This webinar is being recorded. For those of you that are looking to receive HRCI or SHRM credits for today's webinar, those are going to be shared at the end of the presentation. We do have the opportunity to hear from two of our specialists in HR here at Raymond. Katie Stewart is our Senior Manager with Raymond's HR Solutions team, and Elizabeth Williams is a Principal with Raymond's HR Solutions team. So artificial intelligence, it's something we hear often. We're hearing a lot about it right now, and we hear about it in the form of AI. Let's just back up a quick second and just remind ourselves, AI is artificial intelligence. And as a definition, artificial intelligence simulates human intelligence by way of machines, or otherwise, as we know, through computer systems. And I saw a quote recently that grabbed my attention because the start of the quote was rather harsh, but I liked it. And it says, AI will probably lead to the end of the world. But in the meantime, there will be some great accomplishments. Now, we all know AI is not going to lead to the end of the world, but I think we also know that it is going to accomplish some great things. And so today we're going to hear some opportunities and risks within the HR industry. So Katie, I'd like to start with you. With all the rage of AI, can you start us off with how, in general, does AI benefit the HR industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Laura. You are right. This is such a popular topic right now. AI is and is going to continue to create efficiencies for HR professionals and all professionals alike. So when it comes to automating administrative tasks, utilizing AI to streamline the talent acquisition process, assist with employee onboarding, and then even answer employee questions regarding to benefits, maybe. There are many benefits to AI as it relates to human resources. So one way that I think we're already seeing AI being used is through online chat options, so like chatbots. We can be implementing these internally to help our employees get answers to a lot of different things. For example, if an employee has a question regarding a policy within the handbook, they can go and chat with, we'll call her Sally, from HR, and Sally will have a back and forth dialogue with this employee based on the type of questions that they're asking, and then can respond with the appropriate policy that the person is looking for. But Sally can also refer them back to a human if the scenario gets too complex for Sally to answer. So another area or example of this is with FMLA. So if an employee needs to take a leave of absence, they can message this chatbot and request information. So that chatbot can then again have that dialogue, ask those appropriate questions. What type of leave is this employee trying to take? Is it for them or for a family member? And then provide the employee with the appropriate policies, documents, and then any next steps. And another great example with these chatbots is benefits. We're already seeing this internally here as well with Alex, for example. So if you've seen this before, it's a great example of AI in use. So it will ask you some questions to help you figure out what benefits you should be enrolling in as an employee as you're going through open enrollment. So do you have dependents? Are you on any maintenance medications? How often do you visit the doctor? And then based on those answers, it can provide recommendations for you. And then finally, I think another great example right now that we're starting to see is predictive analytics. So the systems taking our data that we have internally and looking for trends. So it may be trends in employee turnover, employee engagement, being able to predict what employees might be staying long-term in the company. And then even predicting our high potentials so that we can really put them on a path to develop them and continue to provide them with opportunities so that we're keeping them engaged as they're promoting throughout the organization.
Wow. That's a lot of opportunities. Things have changed quickly, it sounds like. Elizabeth, bring in your voice to the conversation here. And what are your thoughts on the benefits of AI in HR?
Thank you, Laura. Well, to expand upon what Katie just touched upon, the analytics that is available now in so much of our software, HRIS systems, payroll systems, that's usually the backbone of human resources, what we run all of our systems on. HRIS, many in our audience know, human resources information systems. And it doesn't matter which payroll company or platform you're using. We're agnostic. We're not going to be talking about specific vendors or software today in particular, because all of them, if they don't already have AI built into it, they are adding it. It is ubiquitous. And so when you talk about how you have your employee census, all of your employee data in this database, and that's how, with these algorithms, it could help predict who is at risk for leaving the company, who is more engaged or less engaged. So if we start with talking about employee engagement, for instance, I was just talking with a colleague a couple weeks ago who is in charge of analyzing all of the copious information from our firm's employee engagement. We have about 1,000 employees. So you can imagine, say there's just 5 open-ended questions in this employee engagement survey, which of course we have more, and everyone took the survey. That's 5,000 text box of free open text that he would have to compile, read, go through. And when I was telling him about this AI webinar, and he was describing how he's using AI in our company survey, it was remarkable because he said it's going to save him hours upon hours of time. AI is going to scrape all that data, find the common themes, summarize it, and have all these topics pop out in a matter of minutes. Now, of course, you still have to go through it and read the data and find anything that is, say, the outliers that aren't the general consensus. But just imagine how much time that is saving. And then when we talk about performance reviews, and we talk about how managers sometimes might need a little bit of help with how do I phrase this particular phrase or some recommendations for improvements. The AI is now built into some of these platforms to automatically suggest, as you've probably seen in other areas, rewrite this with AI. Or you can then take it outside of the system and use another OpenAI platform that is acceptable for your company to use and say, how do I phrase this? And it will give you some information just to start with. But as I do say to watch out for, make sure it's not cookie cutter, because AI may give the same response for all of your employees. So you want to make sure you customize it based on your the employees you're giving your feedback to. And another nice thing that I like that's starting to be added into these platforms is you can use skill banks and or what the interests of the employees are. So if you have a repository of skills, trainings, and so forth, interests, different jobs, and you keep the list for what the employee already has proficiency in, and maybe on a scale of 1 to 10 what that proficiency is, and then what their interests are. AI can scrape all that data to show you this is what the employee is interested in on their career path, so you can co-create your career development plan with them. And you compare it to where their skills are already at in the level of proficiency. And then it can turn around for you a plan to say, well, they're here now and they want to go in this other direction. How do you get there? So it will give you the steps in between to lay out that development plan. Again, a tool, a resource, you still have to have those conversations, but how cool is that it gave you that data based on the factual information in there, and then you can plan from there. So I really am excited about these tools. And another way that you can use AI, onboarding, we talked about benefits already, a welcome message, and segue into even a CEO giving a message across the firm. And if you have a bilingual employee population or you have a global organization, what I did next here is I wrote a quick sample message to show our audience today an example. I used AI to write a script. It's fictitious, and then I edited it to fit in my own style. I recorded myself using Zoom. Then I uploaded this video. It provided me with a written transcript of my words, and it was very spot on accurate. Then it translated it into a different language and created a second video for me in a matter of just a handful of minutes. And so today, here's the result that I'd like to share with you. Welcome to the firm. We're thrilled to have you join our family. We believe in taking care of our team and their families, and that includes offering comprehensive health insurance benefits. In today's video, we'll walk you through our health insurance plan, covering everything from eligibility and enrollment to understanding your coverage and how to reach out for assistance. Remember, the specifics of what is covered can vary based on the plan, so it's important to review your policy details carefully. We'll cover all of this and more. Let's get started. Bienvenido a la empresa. Nos emociona que te unas a nuestra familia. Creemos en cuidar a nuestro equipo y sus familias, incluyendo beneficios completos de seguro de salud. En el video de hoy, te guiaremos en nuestro plan de seguro de salud, cubriendo desde la elegibilidad y la inscripción hasta entender tu cobertura y cómo solicitar asistencia. Recuerda, los detalles específicos de lo que está cubierto pueden variar según el plan, por lo que es importante revisar tu póliza con cuidado. Cubriremos todo esto y más. Empecemos. Now, I have to tell you, I did study 4.5 years of Spanish. However, I don't even know what I just said there. So it was incredible. Isn't that wild?
That's really, really crazy. It's so realistic in how it really paired the mouth movement to the language so seamlessly. It's almost even a little creepy how it does that, but mostly impressive. That is very impressive. Katie, I want to turn back to you. Both of you have given us some really great examples so far as to how to integrate AI into HR. But Katie, what other additional examples do you have of how HR professionals are using AI today?
Yeah, I would say creating or revising job descriptions is a really great place for people to get their feet wet if they're new to utilizing AI. So for example, you can type in the position title that you're looking for. You can add industry, size of the organization. I wouldn't add any specific detailed information about your organization, but you can give kind of the gist or the basics, right? And it will spit out a first draft for you. And once you have that first version, you can continue to tweak it utilizing that AI as well. So for example, if you have a unique culture in your organization, you can ask it to tweak it to something more edgy, for example. So just to pull an example for you I'll kind of talk through it. The other day, I went into an online AI site to create a job description for an HR manager in a professional services industry with 100 employees. So it provided a very nice overview for the job description. It gave me key responsibilities, gave me the education and experience that it recommended, skills and abilities, certifications, even gave me like a template for benefits, how to share the benefits of the organization that are offered and how to apply. So then I went back in and I asked it to update it to make it for a bit more of a edgy culture. So instead of at first it had, we are seeking a dynamic and experienced HR manager, but change that to, we are seeking a bold and innovative HR manager. So you can just see how it kind of changed that language. slightly. It talked about cutting edge strategies, attracting talent who align with our vibrant culture, developing engaging onboarding programs. You can definitely utilize it to get the style that fits your organization and the type of language that you would use typically. And another example is to use it for starting training decks. So if you know your training topic and you just don't know where to begin, you kind of have that writer's block, it's a great place to start within an AI site. So it can create that outline for you for whatever your topic is. And from there, you can ask it to adjust it. You can pare it down. You can say, okay, I want this to be a 30-minute presentation. I need this to be an hour-long presentation. And then it can start to add more detail for you. And once you get it kind of how you want it, you can ask it to create PowerPoint slides so it can get that template started for you again. And then even create a script like Elizabeth used in that video, right? Now you want to make sure of a few things. You want to make sure that you're aware of the sources of the data that it's pulling from so that you can cite some of those sources as well in your presentation, and make sure that you're not plagiarizing any information along the way. But it gives you that starting point. So it's definitely going to save you time by just getting you started. And then a third example, I would say, utilizing AI to assist you or even potentially your managers to prepare for a difficult conversation with employees. So as another example, I went into a site again and I just typed in, how should I prepare for a performance conversation with my employee? And the site gave me some recommendations. So it said to review performance data, set clear objectives, prepare for your message, create a supportive environment, anticipate the reactions, develop an action plan, and then practice your delivery. And then from there, it even went further and told me what I need to do during the actual conversation with the employee. So it said to start with positives, be clear and direct, listen actively, collaborate on solutions, and then end on a positive note. And then finally, it even told me what to do as a follow-up. So do regular check-ins with that employee and make sure to document the discussion. So just by asking one simple question, it gave me a whole plan to prepare for that conversation with that employee.
Wow, that is so impressive, and you know, it's not taking work away from you. It's just making your role much more efficient and having essentially an extension of your staff through the work of AI, right? So that is great information, Katie. Thank you. And it also helps segue into another question that I want to venture into, and this is talking about recruiting within the HR industry. So, Elizabeth, can you talk to us about how you feel AI can aid in recruiting efforts?
Sure. Well, again, a huge time saver. Another colleague of mine was just sharing a great example about a week or so ago. She has a college age daughter who's currently applying for jobs for the summer. And what historically would have taken days to even a week in the recruiting process has now been streamlined to 15 minutes thanks to AI. When she applied to a job, firstly, it was on her phone, it was mobile, super easy. The technology was super easy for her to apply. She received a text message instantly that thanked her for applying and had some follow-up questions to ask regarding her qualifications. And again, this was all AI chat box. Once she chatted back and forth, she was scheduled with an interview for the next week, all within 15 minutes of applying. I just think as the recruiting that we do, which we don't yet have this technology in what we do in solutions. So it would be just a huge time saver. Her daughter left, had a feeling after that appointment setting, she felt valued, excited about this opportunity that she got right in front of the head of the line. You know, many job seekers out there, you just sit and wait and wonder, am I still in the running? Am I not? Because the recruiters are culling through all of the resumes. That's after they've been screened by their software that they use. So for her to feel like she was at the head of the line and not lost in the mix with other applicants, that was just really impressive. And As Katie talked about earlier, using AI to help write job descriptions is huge. And I'd like to share the example of what I do when I'm recruiting for a job. Sometimes clients have a job description, sometimes they don't. So I take the information I have, I use a little bit of AI to flesh out anything I wasn't thinking about for the particular job. And once the client approves that, then I take that job description, I upload it into an AI chat box and say, identify the competencies. And this is going to help me streamline time from brainstorming interview questions. So it gives me a list of the competencies. And then from there, I choose the most critical ones that I want to formulate behavioral based interview questions on to solicit specific examples from the candidates I talk to. And then I ask AI to draft about 3 to 5 interview questions for each of those competencies that I chose for the particular job that I'm interviewing for. And then out of that list, I choose which ones I like best. And then I incorporate that into my larger list of questions that I normally ask candidates. And I now have that as part of my interview template for that particular job.
Wow. I can't help but just kind of sit here and just say, wow, this is so impressive. We've talked a lot about really great benefits. And Elizabeth, I want to stay with you for just another moment. What should we be considering data that is going into AI?
That's critical, Laura. I'm glad you asked. Talking about the IT side of this a little bit, just to give a little bit of what's under the hood, so to speak, of what you need to be top of mind. Certainly work with your IT professionals or your vendor who provides that service for you, because this should be top of mind if you're not already have this incorporated into your company policies. You have to think about safeguarding your information, the data governance, establishing strong data governance policies and practices, including data classification, how your data is encrypted, and who accesses it. You need to have access controls. This is going to help ensure that any sensitive data used in your AI applications used by your employees is adequately protected. And there's OpenAI out there, ChatGPT, and so forth. I can share that with Raymond. We have powered by Microsoft Office. Copilot is what we use. And so the data is, from what I understand, I'm not an IT professional, more protected and not left out into the greater open sea of OpenAI. So that's part of what you need to set for your practices and policies. Having secure data storage and processing. So what this means is having secure storage solutions in IT for AI data sets. When you have that information, and if you're storing it somewhere, and any AI models, how do you encrypt it when it's both at rest and in transit? Meaning when it's both stored on your servers at rest or in transit when it's moving in and out of your organization, to safeguard that data integrity. And think about it, it's not just your company's information, it's your clients, it's your customers that you need to safeguard if it's being transmitted or if it's being stored. And so talking about user access controls, IT needs to set up those security levels, much like they do now with other systems that they oversee, to enforce strict access controls for AI systems and data, ensuring that only authorized personnel can access and particularly manipulate AI models and data. If your company has IT support that is sophisticated to start creating these types of AI algorithms and so forth, you don't want anyone else coming in and messing up any of those algorithms that can make things go haywire. So that's down to that level. You need to have it protected.
Interesting. You know, what I essentially heard there is before you do anything with AI, go to your IT and make sure, one, that you have a strong IT policy and systems and process in place, and then start looking at the AI conversion and support into HR. Really important information. Katie, I want to switch a bit. You both have provided great factual information. I want to start getting your opinions on things. So, Katie, with your experience and wisdom, how do you think employees are feeling about AI?
Yeah, I think overall employees are excited about the potential of it, right? Utilizing it to enhance their jobs, but they're not really sure if their employers are ready for it. So a lot of things are kind of being talked behind the scenes, but there's not a lot of direction yet to employees about how to move forward with utilizing AI. So according to a presentation that I went to earlier this month, less than 50% of employees think that their company will even tell them when AI changes their job. So there's
Mm.
some skepticism there as well, and just some wonder of how we're going to move forward with this. And 34% do think that it will improve their work experience. So that's great to hear. Now, in terms of HR professionals, only 1 in 10 employees think that their HR processes are currently state of the art. So that means we do have a lot of work to do, and we do have a lot of opportunity with AI to help us bring those current processes within HR up to something that's state of the art. But then, even more so, with how quickly things are going to continue to change, we're going to have to constantly be thinking about how are we going to continue to improve and enhance our processes. I heard someone say the other day, it's 2024 outside of work. But what year does it feel like inside of work for your employees right now? And I was like, oh, that's a really good question, right? When you stop and think about that. And then how long are your employees going to put up with that? If it feels like 1999 still in your workplace, how long are employees actually going to put up with that? So when HR leaders were asked, data showed that only 14% of HR leaders think that their companies are actually prepared today to make these changes going forward. But the data does show that 44% of our current tasks are within scope for being automated or augmented by AI. So we do have a lot of work to do within just our organizations in general and including in HR.
44% of the current tasks on my plate right now and anyone else's
Yeah.
are within the ability for AI to help. Is that what you're saying there?
Yes, yes,
That
absolutely.
is impressive. It's interesting and sometimes a little scary just individually to make sure that we understand AI not just as professionals in different industries, but as individuals. So lots of changes to tasks and roles with that statistic. Elizabeth, what is the future with AI changing this employment landscape?
Sure. Well, there's a question in our chat box from Allie Bell that I'd like to field because AI is already here. She asks, will these tools be built into HR systems at some point, or will it be a separate system? Many of these platforms, be it a true HRIS system or payroll systems, or even a separate employee engagement survey platform, they already are starting to add AI into it. So, as I said earlier, it's going to be ubiquitous no matter the platform. So, thank you for asking that, Allie. And Laura, when we think about, what's next, it's already here. There's already a definitive disruption for our work now. So can you imagine the future of work? What I'd like to do is explain here visually to give our viewing audience what this can look like. Think about jobs in this type of rhythm. We already said 44% of our current jobs have the ability to have AI take those things off of our plate. And so job tasks can become more automated. And for certain jobs that can be done without expertise and human skill and interaction, those jobs essentially can be automated, as you can say, outsourced to AI. Simple things like, here's one example here, a simple graphic design edit. Now, it's not going to put the graphic designer out of a job. It hopefully will make that graphic designer job easier for that professional, and what is called in the next bucket, augmenting the job. These are roles that you still need that substantial expertise, but they're able to do things more efficiently, more readily with AI enhancement. For instance, having a software engineer use Chat GPT to debug sections of code that they can't quite figure out on their own, and within a matter of seconds or a couple minutes, it gives them that answer, then they're able to move on. But you still need that software engineer's expertise to keep things going at your company. And then thirdly, the last bucket of how to walk through this disruption of the future of work, jobs that are transformed. It's completely redesigning certain roles. And in my opinion, many roles, all roles will be touched by this. You think about, for instance, HR. Sometimes we are so busy putting out fires, and there's so many tasks that we have to get through. That's just part of our role. But if many of these things can then be automated with AI, then it frees up our time, it frees up our brain to be more strategic and to be more of that coach and strategist with our leadership team, with our employees. We have time to talk about how we can help be that resource to the humans in our organization. That is the definition of human resources.
Yeah, yeah, I love what you're saying about how this frees us up to be more in the strategic realm of our work and getting some of those day-to-day tasks out. So to stay ahead, we've said that a couple of times in this webinar, stay ahead of the AI curve for our own career paths. So Katie, what are some skills and expertise that employees should be shifting their focus on to help transform their own individual jobs?
Yeah, so according to Willis Towers Watson, there are 10 skills that are going to be in high demand for all employers and employees in the future. So cognitive flexibility, negotiation skills, service orientation skills, judgment and decision making, emotional intelligence, coordinating with others, the people management side, creativity, critical thinking, and then complex problem solving. So employers are going to move away from really looking for those technical skills of the past that now AI can help to automate or augment with our jobs, as Elizabeth shared. And they're going to be looking more for those soft skills or those strategic skills that help us move our organizations forward. And as HR professionals, I think this is really exciting and gives us a great opportunity. HR has traditionally been a very administrative role. There's a lot of tasks that have to be performed within HR that if we can start automating those, it can, as Elizabeth said, free up our time so we can be true business partners to our organizations, true advisors, and spend more time on strategy and execution of that strategy.
Katie, that is so
Elizabeth.
true. It doesn't remove that human factor, right? We still need to be verifying information and putting procedures and policies in place. Laura, let me ask you a question, if I may. Fact or fiction? Workplace automation will have a largely negative impact on our workers and jobs.
Fiction.
You are correct. And what you got to think about it is automation will result in new combinations of work and talent and skill requirements and work relationships, all of those soft skills that Katie just shared from that other survey is going to be critical. Here are some additional stats that I want to share. I find them quite mind-blowing, but at the same time, it's adjusting our way of thinking. AI can contribute to the creation of 20 million to 50 million new jobs globally by 2030, according to McKinsey. And that's just 6 years away.
Mhm.
There's another by the World Economic Forum, another statistic here that they predict 85 million jobs across the globe could be displaced. That's incredible. But the upside is 97 million new roles may emerge just by 2025. Now, this is something they predicted about 3 or 4 years ago. So with the speed of how quickly AI is moving, those numbers, give or take a million or two, it's still going to change our landscape so dramatically. And so what I'd like to impress upon our listeners today is thinking about how we leverage this reinvention of our work. Work needs to be redesigned. And we've talked about this before as HR professionals, putting the right seats on the right people in the right seats on the bus, right? Well, this is even more critical when you're talking about reallocating roles to the right people, doing the right things at your company. If AI is going to automate easily 44% of all of our jobs, then you've got some latitude and freedom to move people around and as you're redesigning these roles. And if focusing on reducing that transactional work and increasing relational work, expertise that you can leverage. AI is going to give us access to skills that were unattainable to us in the past. We can't even imagine yet what it's going to be. For example, let's talk about one particular industry. This was a statistic that they talked about retail skills today. 50% won't be needed in 3 years. So it doesn't mean that there's still not going to be valuable jobs within retail. It's that they're going to be reinvented. And that I think would apply to roles across all industries. Skills are rapidly changing. New jobs will evolve. And I think it's just imperative that as HR professionals leading the charge with our organizations to impress upon your leadership that now is the time to stay ahead of the curve, to educate your employees. So they're not left wondering. One thing we do know as HR professionals is that if you aren't providing enough information to employees, they're naturally going to fill in the gaps and make up their own conclusions. And so if you have them worried and wondering, am I going to have a job? What's the future going to be for me? Or if they're thinking, oh, that'll never happen, or they're nervous saying, I only know how to do these things. My job is highly transactional and I don't want to change that. I don't want to let go. People are reluctant to change. Now is the time to start working on their mindsets. Because here's the thing, AI is only going to spread even further. It's not going away, but AI is not about replacing people. But talking with your employees now, it will help those who may be resistant to also evolve and learn new things and change their job and give up some things or let AI help them out in their job. It's those people who don't leverage AI in the future who will be displaced.
Very powerful information. I'm going to stick with you again, Elizabeth, and talk to us about, let's convert into some risks. So we really are getting a good feel how this can help us and benefit us. Let's talk about the risks.
Sure. Well, AI is a resource. It's a great tool, but it cannot be the end all be all. And so there's a couple examples here that I want to give, real life examples. This is not hypothetical. Again, I'm not sharing company names or platform names. There's been an EEOC lawsuit. It's already done, settled, closed. There's a company in China who they often advertise in America for US applicants to tutor their employees, or I'm sorry, their students in China. And what they weren't aware of is the software that they were using, powered by AI, has different employment laws than the US American employment laws. And so in China, they programmed their tutor application software to automatically reject female applicants aged 55 or older and male applicants aged 60 or older. Now in China, that's part of their culture, that's part of their employment law. There's nothing wrong with that. But when they are advertising to Americans, those of us in the US who, hey, that sounds like a great opportunity, and they apply, that company in China ended up rejecting more than 200 qualified applicants based in the US because of their age. And maybe they did or didn't know about that, but that's how they got caught up in it, accidentally, inadvertently. And that company was ordered to pay $365,000 to settle the EEOC discriminatory hiring lawsuit. So what I am impressing upon our audience today is you need to look under the covers of your software that you're using with your vendors. You may not realize there might be some biases built into there, but if you don't ask those questions, you are blindly left to wonder, is that going to happen to us? Well, chances are, if it's a US company, they know that, you can't discriminate based on gender and age, and it shouldn't have those filters. But do you know if your software is based in the US or overseas? European laws, employment laws are very different. And what if, for instance, you have a parent company in another country, and they have a US presence. And if the parent company, as they often do in a global organization, to have it at the enterprise, they have the enterprise solution of their software, and they have their other entities set up in all these different countries, including the US. I've worked in global environments before, and I've had to many times educate the parent company, their HR leaders, to say, this is how we need to do it differently in the US for hiring, for there's so many things that are very different. And they were just astonished, as equally we were learning about the European employment laws. So it was a great education. But when you put software in the middle of that, if it's programmed based on European laws and not taking into consideration US laws, you're going to have the same issue set up. For instance, it's not illegal to ask in certain European countries what someone's age is. It's just part of getting to know someone when they apply. In the US, we know you cannot ask age. So that was one learning example from this global company. You can't ask what their age is. You can't ask if they have kids, and things that are just normal conversation. And I'm looking at them saying, you make your employees give a 6-month, it's customary to give a 6-month leave notice before they leave your company. In the US, it's only 2 weeks and a customary courtesy. And they were blown away by that. So if those examples don't impress upon you that at that simple level, how they're so different, go to your parent company and start asking some very pointed questions to expose any potential risk, because it may be there and you don't know it. I have another example, Laura, if I can share.
Absolutely.
There was a company recently that used AI, an image in their PowerPoint. They were doing a webinar much like this for their listening audience. And they had an administrative assistant who put together a fantastic PowerPoint and different images. And she found this really nice, cute picture of a puppy dog, and it was speaking to the topic on the slide. And so they popped it in there and had their webinar, fantastic. And she used AI to find it. And then when they uploaded their presentation back on their website, which became part of the greater World Wide Web, that image got pinged back to the original owner. It was copywritten. There were supposed to be licensing fees. What happened? The company found this out by getting a letter in the mail requesting a demand of $1 million for misuse of that image for a cute little puppy dog. And they ended up settling for $10,000. and paid the company off all over one image. And that administrative assistant, I can just imagine how awful she must have felt. She didn't do it on purpose. It wasn't inadvertent. It was inadvertent. They didn't have any guidelines or policies in place of how to use AI safely. Huge risk. And if I may, another example here, when we're talking about watching for bias. AI is still super new. It is scraping data from who knows where on the World Wide Web. And many times, data and opinions can be blurred, right? And so when you're using AI, whether that's through your company software or Chat GPT, beware of bias. Let's use a couple examples. We talked about performance reviews. A manager needs to pop into a chat box. How do I give positive feedback a little bit better? I'm not really a wordsmith. Or how do I address this particular difficult conversation? If it's scraping it from who knows which corners of the world, it could slant it, the answers based on gender. So you need to really take a good look at that language that it's generating. And what can be seen as a positive behavior for a male, for instance, can be described quite differently for a female. For instance, if there's a performance behavior that needs to be talked about, either positively or negatively, this was proven, this has happened. What can be seen as assertive or confident for a male might be described as aggressive or be more approachable and friendly for a female. Again, how did that get in there? The manager isn't really thinking that, but if they didn't really think through, that's a bias from whatever is scraped through AI, because certain jobs also may carry a gender bias in the vast pool of AI algorithms online. When you think about it, right? You make assumptions, or AI can definitely make assumptions that, hey, if you're a receptionist, 9 times out of 10, you're a female, right? Or a construction worker, or some type of data engineer or something. It slants it toward male. Is that true? Not necessarily, but AI isn't really cognizant of that.
Yeah, boy, AI is very powerful. In both the opportunities, but also in the risks which you're describing. So we're winding down on our last 10 minutes here. I have just a couple more questions that we'll address rather quickly. Katie, what should HR be considering when getting into AI? And we have a question in the chat from Melissa about, where do you get started? And I think this will start to answer that.
Yeah, I think the first place to start, as we've kind of alluded to earlier, is making sure we have the policies and procedures and processes put in place for our employees. And that way we can start holding people accountable to those. So employees need to know and be trained on what AI is acceptable to be used in their organization. I was just having a chat with a client yesterday, and due to their industry and the ownership of the content that they produce, they need to be very careful that AI is not being used in their organization to create that content, because now that AI, in some instances, may own that content, and then they're no longer those content creators, right? So making sure that employees really know what's acceptable to be used in the organization and what AI is not acceptable within your organization. And as we do with any policy or trainings, we need to make sure that employees are signing off on that so that we can then hold them accountable going forward. And as Elizabeth has shared with some really great examples, if AI is used incorrectly, it can be detrimental to an organization. So we need to make sure that our employees are clear on where they can put that data and how to keep that confidential data safe. So we have mentioned before to make sure that you're working with your IT staff or your outsourced IT firm that you utilize to make sure that those safeguards are put in place to protect your data, and also identify if there's been a potential leak of confidential information so that then you can act appropriately.
Great. And Elizabeth, do you have any more to add to that question?
Yeah, Katie, you hit it spot on. And employees, 44% of them, they're already using Chat GPT for work, for personal. 55% of companies don't have policies on Gen AI. And 75% of companies lack strategies or initiatives to ensure a positive AI learning experience for their employees. I was at another AI conference recently where I spoke at, and one of the panelists shared what he was doing leading his company, which I love this example. So I'm passing it along today to you. He set up a strategic committee within their leadership executive team where they just spent time together and decided this is how we're going to explore and play with AI as it pertains to our company. And they tested it out, pilot it before you deploy it company wide. And maybe you have not just your leadership team, but someone obviously from IT, HR. You can have a committee across departments, and from there it will help you decide. Yes, this is how we're going to use it. This is how we're going to deploy it. Take that lead by creating policies and determining how you can use AI for the betterment of your organization in the future. And trust me, a committee, best way to go. What do you want to put in that AI policy? Here's your table of contents. What's the policy's purpose and scope? What is the strategy here, the overall strategy and vision for using AI in your company? The use of it in the workplace. What is acceptable? What rules and procedures you need to put around that for the proper use of AI? Employees need to be trained on this. Like we shared many risks today, you need to educate your employees about the security risks that are very probable and how to prohibit the use of sensitive data. Additionally, it's important to have employees understand there has to be an employee review of their AI generated work. Now, show your work, right? And you look through it and you see, is this not plagiarizing, not copywritten? Did I put this in my own voice, for instance? It still has to have a human take a look at it. So they have to check their work. What are the permitted AI platforms so you can keep that data safe? What are the legal, ethical, or compliance standards that go into it? So that's it in a broad table of contents. And partnering HR and IT together will really, that's the direction you need to lead with policies.
That's excellent help. And as in that last bullet, you talk about the ethical and legal piece of this. This is my last question before I get into your final thoughts and we wrap this up. Elizabeth, can you quickly just talk about what legislation might be starting to get enacted around AI?
Well, those legal eagles are already circulating. Government agencies, and also there's worker advocates and special interest groups that have expressed concerns that AI tools can discriminate against job applicants when they're built using data that reflects existing biases. How do you know? Well, the EEOC has already warned employers that they can be held legally liable if they fail to prevent screening software from having a discriminatory impact. Recently, the EEOC has rendered their opinion about a well-known, well-established payroll HRIS software platform. Again, I'm not naming names, doesn't matter who it is because it can affect all of them. They're saying to the software company, you must face a proposed class action alleging that it violated federal anti-bias laws by using AI-powered software to screen out job applicants for their clients, for their customers, for discriminatory reasons. And they argued, the EEOC argued that this company may qualify as an employment agency subject to Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and other laws because its software determines whether many applicants ever are considered for jobs at all for their customers. Now, the brief came about from a lawsuit filed last year by a single applicant who claims that he's been turned down for more than 100 jobs he's applied for using this platform. And you can tell when you go online in the bottom, you can usually say, it usually says something like powered by XYZ company. So it's typically not hidden. And he's saying he was discriminated against because he's Black, over 40, and has anxiety and depression. And the EEOC urged the federal judge to reject the vendor's pending motion to dismiss their case that, well, we're not that employer or employment agency, so we don't fall under this Title VII. It doesn't apply to us. And they said, no, you do. They said, we don't have any oversight or control over the customer's job application processes. We don't tell them who not to hire or who to hire. And moving that this is going toward a class action, it can include tens of thousands of people and unspecified compensatory and punitive damages. This is huge. So it's currently under litigation right now. When you think about this, 80% of US employers and virtually all Fortune 500 companies are using AI in their hiring process with this software, in many different platforms. And overall, Laura, all of this going on, there still is yet little litigation so far for employers' use of these tools. And it could be because job applicants, and like this one gentleman, don't know about the AI software that could be creating bias. It's uncharted territory, a whole new landscape, and there's more fascinating questions unfolding than we have definitive answers for.
Yeah, it sounds that way. Katie, let's end, ladies, with some final thoughts in about 30 seconds to a minute max. Katie, could you leave us with some of your final thoughts?
Yeah, so I think it's just important to remember what AI cannot do, right? It cannot bring that human factor into the equation, as we've talked about. We as humans still need to be the ones that are keeping our technology honest and accurate. We need to be reviewing information just as we would with any policy, training, document, communication that we would roll out now. We need to make sure that it's ethical and legal. Ensure that our data is kept confidential. We need to be providing the ones, we need to be the ones providing context around a situation. AI can't do that for us. And especially as HR professionals, it can't provide the empathy and compassion that we bring to the workplace and into situations daily with our employees. We've talked about that it can't address biases without us initiating it to clear up some of those. And it can't complete the work. And I think that's a really important piece. And it kind of goes to a question that was in the chat as well. Should we consider AI information as draft content to safeguard litigation risk? I think we should consider AI content as a starting point, right? But then the human needs to be there to add their style, add their perspective, add their voice, as Elizabeth said, to really customize it and make sure that it's our work content at the end of the day. So we still need to be making sure that we keep our humans in human resources.
Excellent. Elizabeth, if you can, in just a few seconds, wrap up some of your final thoughts.
Sure. Well, here's a formula for us to keep top of mind. AI plus HI equals ROI. Artificial intelligence and human intelligence can greatly impact your company's return on investment. It can enhance human potential. Beyond automating, it can augment and transform our work world as we know it. It's ROI for your company and also an investment in your people. When you invest in your workforce with more tools, resources, training, and opportunities, you are investing in your own business tenfold, 20-fold. So help your employees get comfortable with being outside of their comfort zone as the future of their work is being disrupted. The landscape is dramatically changing, and it's your employees who will make all the difference. If you empower them to help shape your organization's future, it will have a profound, sustained impact on your world of work. It demonstrates your organization's flexibility and ability to pivot, evolve, transform, and to have staying power and longevity.
Wow. So as we wrap up here at the 11 o'clock hour, I'm going to end where we started and just say AI is going to create some amazing accomplishments. And both of you helped us understand it, helped us understand how to get it started, and helped us understand where to be very careful with it. You see on your screen now that there are some of the credits for recertification. You can reach out to Raymond. We're going to send you a follow-up email. It will have a link to this recording, and it'll have contact information for both Elizabeth and Katie, as well as directly to Raymond in general. We really thank you for committing your time to this webinar and letting Raymond support you. Thank you and have a great day.